Oh yeah, Ming's in every video.
Okay,
My friends ask me about Ming more than they ask about what I'm talking about. Sweat and Hustle Thoughts. So we're here with Anna Padilla.
that's right.
Yes, Anna's a friend of mine, an amazing trainer, and someone that I look up to in the fitness community, and someone who has answered a lot of my questions. So I thought it'd be amazing to have her on to talk about some things.
And I am honored that he's asked because I equally value his opinion and expertise on multiple subjects in the fitness and health world as well.
Really? That's amazing. So I read this article that had a big impression on me because it just, I knew like things like obesity rates or rates of chronic diseases like diabetes and like high blood pressure and hypertension and things like that were high in America, but I really didn't know they were so high. Like numbers up to like 100 million Americans are obese or overweight. And those numbers are only increasing, right? So when I sign into my Instagram, I see nothing but trainers and fitness things, and it kind of creates this bubble for me where it seems like everyone's healthy, and that's just not the case. And being in the wellness community, I just don't, I want to be a catalyst for change to help people become healthier. And right now it seems like we are really losing the battle. So I'm just curious to, like, as a trainer and as someone who is like bridging the physical therapy and training world, like what would you say, like what do you think some of the issues are, and what would be some of the solutions that you would suggest?
Well, I mean, the three big ones, like on the surface, are educational issues, people understanding where their food is coming from, what it's made of, what it's doing to their body, people's misunderstanding of what is affordable and unaffordable if it comes down to how much money they're making, and then people's understanding of what they've been exposed to for their whole life versus what might be better for them. For instance, if it's in your culture or food that your mother or family members have always been making for you, that's going to be something that you're familiar with and comfortable with, and you've been raised with like kind of likings to those flavors, and it's so that kind of gets into habits that people have formed throughout their lives. So I'd say education, a misunderstanding of expense and finances, and then maybe habits that have been formed through just being alive and being with your culture and family.
I mean, definitely like the finance part of it. Like that's one of the retorts that you get all the time is that, oh, I want to eat healthy, but it's so expensive, right? Like, I know some people like,
They're
even
shopping for organic stuff.
Yeah, like like even like myself, like there's like this stereotype that like only rich people shop at Whole Foods, right? That organic foods or more natural foods are just way more expensive. But as I've kind of like delved deeper into this subject, like I found that there are plenty of ways to kind of like hijack that. And it's just, again, educating yourself as to like, maybe when you're trying to buy, like, let's say produce, right? So it's one of the things people say, oh, it's too expensive. But if you're shopping for foods that are in season and that are local, then they tend to be cheaper. So just, you start to learn some tricks of the trade.
And then that comes down to education.
Yeah.
Doing research on, what grows at this time of year in this area. And that is not common knowledge to most people that don't want to do the research. But then you think finance also goes along with time. So if people have to work a lot of hours to make a certain amount of money, they're not going to have a lot of free time to maybe do the research or take the time to do the shopping that is better for them than they would, otherwise if they wanted to, had the time to do it.
So
sorry.
how do we fix it?
Right. How do we fix it? Well, I don't think it has to be that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I think that just a little preparation will go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And that preparation also doesn't have to be anything crazy. For instance, if you are eating simpler things,
Mm-hmm.
you're also not going to be spending much, and you're not going to be wasting a lot of time preparing it.
Okay.
And simple things happen to be things like whole foods or fruits and vegetables that you don't have to do anything to besides like buy and eat.
Yeah.
You know? So for instance, apples, bananas, like whole foods are a very simple and financially effective way to introduce more nutrition into the diet and whatnot. So I think ultimately it's easier said than done, but going back to the basics,
Yeah.
you know, I know you're a big proponent, what do I want to say, pusher of being simple.
Yes.
Like eating whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
eating things that are less product or
Mm-hmm.
produced or out of packages.
Yeah.
Drinking more water
Yeah.
instead of soda.
Yeah.
I mean, even if like someone said like they spent, you know, they had a can of soda a day,
Yeah.
and they added that up over a
Yeah.
year, versus like bringing a reusable container and getting water.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money saved, and it's much healthier for you. So
Yeah.
if we're addressing finance and time and education, the simpler the better.
Yeah, so I mean, I think everyone's gonna hear me say simple a million times on this website, especially in these Sweat and Hustle Thoughts, because for me, like the simpler you can make something, the easier it's gonna be, and then even in this case, is the more cost efficient it's gonna be. So just like I always tell people, like think simple, like drink water, right? Eat fruit, eat vegetables, right? And just start there. If you can consistently, and I don't think, they always say like, I don't think there's anyone who's ever gone to the doctor and said that, hey, I've been eating too many fruits and vegetables and drinking too much water. And the doctor's been like, oh my God, like stop doing that. Like don't, you know, like you gotta do something else. Like that never happened. So like people are like, no, I drink water. Like we all get defensive, right? But it's like, I think all of us could increase the amount of water that we drink and the amount of fruits and vegetables that we eat. So just like start there. That's where I start, and that's where I am now. Like,
I mean, just like we have time for like personal stories. Or,
this is,
so
let it run.
probably like right out of college, I just moved to New York City. I had kind of a run-of-the-mill physical therapy job where I was getting paid nothing, like nothing. So I was like the most broke I've ever been in my life. Truth be told, I actually like was living in like the Lower East Side projects. I had a roommate. No, I'm not kidding. I was like Anna on the block, and it was fine. But I didn't have any money. Yet at the same time, I knew that I wanted to compete in a bodybuilding competition, and like I didn't even have money to really invest in a gym membership. And yet I wanted to compete in a bodybuilding competition. So I literally went a whole 6 to 9 months training 5 days a week without paying for one gym membership, because I would go to a gym, get like a guest pass, and then make them last it for a week. And sometimes you just like, I would get somehow those gym passes to extend, but then there's so many gyms in New York. I went to like 24-hour Fitness, New York Sports Club, Equinox, you name it. I was at them for free. So with that said and done, I saved a lot of money that way on getting fit through gyms.
That's one way.
But the point of the story is my diet was so simple. Like it was literally chicken, vegetables, fish, more vegetables, more chicken, like maybe an apple. Like if I was lucky, I could throw in a banana. So it was the most simple diet you could ever imagine. Just sticking to whole foods like meats, vegetables, and some nuts. I could have like 8 almonds to like meet my like fat
You
quota.
can't get. Oh, okay.
I was like,
I'm just expensive. You gotta go for a cheaper.
Like,
cheaper
I know. But what I'm trying to say is, I got stage ready at that point. I'm not saying stage ready is healthy for everyone, but I'm saying that I lost over 20 pounds in a few amount of months eating the most simple foods you could imagine in life, and I had no money to waste on it. So just there's proof in the pudding that when you kind of reduce the complexity of what you're eating, you will also reduce your caloric intake. You will also reduce the amount of time and the money you're spending on it. So it doesn't have to be a complicated solution. It could be something as simple as just going back to the basics, and I think that's just also the most sustainable.
So in college, I had this situation where I had put on. So I came to college I'm about 220 now. So I came to college at like 180, 185. So I was like rail thin. So it was just for 3 years, all it was just eat, lift, eat. Like I was on a weight gainer, protein shake, and I got up to like 10 pounds heavier than I am now. I got to almost like 230. And I tested out, everything went well, like ran faster, jumped higher, bench more, all that stuff, right? But I couldn't sustain energy over a whole game or whole practice. I would always like break down at the end of practice, start to cramp up. I had a couple cases of rhabdo.
Really?
So rhabdo is full body cramping and severe dehydration. And it can be really dangerous for your kidneys and everything else. So just really a bad situation. I was, transported to the hospital on 2 separate occasions, right? And so then we kind of, like, no one wanted to say that I was too big because we had worked so hard to get me that size. So I went through that whole year, just not being able to play full games, not being able to practice the way I wanted to, and just always being tired, right? So one of the first doctors that I saw, he was like, maybe it's just a simple answer. Maybe you're just, for the way you play, if you're not going to change your style of play, maybe you're just too heavy. Like maybe you need to slim down, lose a little bit of the weight, lose a little bit of the muscle, so you can run around crazy like you want to. And I was like, no, it can't be that, because we worked too hard to get here. And then with the whole year, they ran all these tests. I was like getting IVs before and after every games at one point. I was drinking pickle juice. I was like holding my hands in like ice bags during timeouts to try to cool myself down. And we tried everything, right? And nothing seemed to work. So after that season, they were like, well, let's just try to lose like 10 to 15 pounds. And you know what my diet was? The only thing they did was, you can only drink water. So, well, I eat everything.
Okay, got it.
Eat
Okay,
everything.
I was like,
Eat everything.
Really put you on the starvation diet? Pretty sure that's not healthy either.
No, the only thing that they changed was, from my diet, was that I couldn't drink any sports drinks, any juice, just water. And we would put the electrolytes in my water. But I couldn't have any other sugar or calories as far as liquid. Yeah, coming from fluid. And that's it. But I was, an athlete. So I'm drinking, if we have 2 practices a day, I'm drinking probably a couple sports drinks during practice, a couple before practice, and a couple during the next practice. And I didn't realize that. Like, I'm a young, stupid college student. So I'm drinking 6 Powerades a day. Now, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure Powerade or Gatorade, I don't want to condemn one label worse than the other, but they have a ton of sugar in them. So you can imagine how much sugar and empty calories I was putting in my body every day, drinking like 4 to 6 of those things. So that's all they did. No more liquid, sugar, and calories. And, my conditioning training was a little bit heavier than like the rest of the team. And that's it. So it's like you said, like sometimes it's just like we think of these like grand things that we have to do, and if you just look at your diet, and diet in the sense of whatever you're putting in your mouth is your diet. Like diet isn't a restrictive thing. Diet is just whatever goes in your mouth.
Nutritional intake
Is your diet. So, for me, it was just refining the liquids that I was putting into my body, and that was it, and that was enough. So sometimes it's just simple changes. Like think about all the liquid calories that you put in, whether it's juice or soda or sports drinks or sugar in your coffee. Like coffee is actually pretty amazing, right? Like I told my mom I was drinking coffee. She was like, "Oh no, Keith, you can't start drinking." And I was like, "No, Ma, it's not the coffee, but it's the sugar, it's the cream, it's all the stuff that we put into the the coffee that makes coffee bad for us."
Right. Yeah. Coffee in general, I think, is great. Obviously, anything in excess is not good, but at the same time, the benefits, I think, of drinking a cup to 2 cups of coffee a day, like, are fine. But unfortunately, it's the things that you couple with the coffee. Like, some people can't have a coffee without having a pastry because they couple the idea together, or like coffee they can't have a coffee with like out the sugar and the cream because it's something that they're just used to. But at the same time, going back to what we were saying, simplifying the coffee. Like, what if you just take out the sugar, and try that for a little while, and then what if you get used to it without the sugar, and then you try taking out like the cream or like whatever. And it's not saying that everything has to be drastic changes, but if people like gradually start to simplify like their diet and their what's on their plate, I think long term it's a change that is sustainable. It's a change that will, over a long period of time, like show many more benefits than maybe even like crazy extreme dieting that sometimes causes a lot more issues.